Before I get into what this video is actually about, I feel like I should make the very quick disclaimer that I am not a YouTuber. I'm not an influencer. I have no YouTuber or influencer aspirations. I do not have a course that I'm trying to sell you. I don't have an ebook that I'm trying to sell you. I'm not a coach of any kind. I'm a very regular, normal person. And the entire reason I'm making this YouTube and these videos in general is because obviously I think YouTube is a good platform to get across ideas, share ideas, connect people. And I had an experience last week that I think is worth sharing and thinking about. So again, just a quick disclaimer that I don't have a course I want you to sign up for. I'm not trying to get you to be a client of any kind. I don't want you to spend any money. I just want to put these videos up and whatever information comes from these, that is the entire reason that this YouTube exists. I want to start this story or discussion with the phrase seekers find. Seekers find. I genuinely believe in any context of that phrase, I believe it is true. Whatever you're looking for is essentially confirmation bias. Whatever you're seeking, you are 1000% gonna find it to some degree. That can be for better or for worse. If you're seeking enlightenment, you're going to find that. If you are seeking something more negative that you actually don't want to find, you're going to find that too. Seekers will always find, no matter what it is. I have to provide a little personal anecdote and backstory because it's going to make sense in the scope of the entire thing. I'm not going to draw it out too long because I don't want to write an autobiography, but it is important to understand why I'm even making this video. So when I look back at my life now that I'm in my 30s, I've always been a very curious and inquisitive, and especially when it came to God and reality. I can't help but always think, what is all of this? How is this even possible to experience any of this? And I always would think about, what is God? So those two things have always been in the forefront of my mind for very literal decades at this point. I've always thought about, very out there, been interested in very out there, outside the box topics. That later in life, as of the last maybe 6 or 7 years, has led me down some deeper rabbit holes, and it's 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 led me to a lot of different paths and looking into hermetic principles, how pretty much anything that could lead me to how any of this is working at all, and how any of this is possible at all, or what is God, what is the best description of God I can possibly get, to different books, to different videos, to different religious texts, to psychology, philosophy, theosophy, quantum physics, like I said, esoteric thing, different religions, different new age texts. What this video is actually about is, over the past 3 years, after all this seeking I've done, after all these questions I've had in over the past, what is this, probably 2 decades now, over the past 3 years, I've had a series of three dreams, really spread out about one a year, that has genuinely given me more answers than any book and any rabbit hole I've ever gone down, any video I've ever watched. And it's actually not even close. These dreams have shown me more of what I've actually wanted to always find that I could possibly imagine. These experiences, these dreams, I did not think were possible for a human to have. I did not think I wasn't actually seeking these dreams. I feel like here I should also preface why these dreams hold any significance in my understanding, because I'm not a person that, I don't think all dreams mean something. I don't think all dreams hold any kind of significant value. I think a lot do. I do think a lot of dreams, especially recurrent elements in dreams over time, I do think those are important to focus on. I think they do have deep symbolic meaning that can reveal subconscious patterns and thoughts, which is useful. But then there's a third category of dreams, which are what these are, that are so alien and foreign that they feel, I can't even really think of the word to describe what they feel like. They just don't feel human almost. They feel like they are from another dimension. They feel like they are there's something that you can't have as a human almost. They just feel very alien. Like it feels like the body doesn't have the hardware to perceive some of the sensations that come from these dreams in any kind of way. So just stay with me here. I know this probably sounds out of this world. That's also a good description for it. It feels out of this world. Some of these dreams feel literally out of this world. Stay with me. The first dream took place on November 2nd, 2023. So in this dream, I write all my dreams down. All of these dreams down, at least. I write dreams down in general for the most part. But these three dreams specifically, I wrote down as soon as I woke up because they were very, very, very clearly important. Like I said, the first dream was November 2nd, 2023. And in this dream, the dream starts, I'm laying in a bed. I can almost see myself laying in a bed because I remember that my head was facing the east and my legs were facing the west, laid out towards the west. Why that was an important thing to write down, I have no idea, but I made note of that. I was very aware of the orientation of my head and my feet for some reason. And then I see a bright light, and then the next thing I know, there is a buildup of energy in my chest, like a very intense, very foreign, very alien buildup of energy in the very center of my chest. And at this point, I'm back in first person, so I'm not looking at my body anymore. I'm in first person, and I am experiencing this as me. It was a ball of energy in the center of my chest, and it felt like it was moving 10 million miles an hour. It was a kind of still fastness. Like if you turn the fan on and you look at the blades, it looks like it's a still thing. Or if you look at a car going 100 miles an hour, it appears to be still, but you have the awareness that it's moving very, very, very fast. That's what this energy felt like. It felt like the particles that were making this energy up were moving at an impossibly fast rate, and it was increasing. So it started impossibly fast, and then every second it felt like it was moving even faster. And what I wrote down is I wrote, if the Big Bang actually happened, if you believe in the Big Bang, if you believe in science, if you believe that there was just a single point of energy that exploded and created the entire universe, that's what this felt like in my chest. It felt like an intense buildup of energy that if it were to explode, it would just obliterate, or I guess create absolutely everything. It felt like the beginning of the Big Bang in the center of my chest, accompanied by a very, 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 very bright light. Other than the light and the feeling of the energy, there were no visuals. Like I couldn't see anything. There were no dream visuals. There was no person there. There was no room that I was in. I couldn't even make out my head or my feet anymore because I'm back in first person. This was a visually void type of dream. It was just the only thing that was present was the light and just a very intense energy in the very center of my chest. And in this point, it couldn't have been more than, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 seconds total. Time at this point, time in dreams is weird in general, but I don't even think time was a consideration in my thought process at this time. If I had to put a time frame on it, now that I'm conscious and looking back on it, it probably wasn't that long, but in the moment, it just felt timeless. It felt like time didn't exist. This energy was just incrementally building up impossibly fast. And again, it was just a very alien sensation. The body, I am 1,000,000% sure, does not have the nerve endings or the organs or the tactile capability to feel and perceive the kind of energy that this was. This felt multidimensional. This felt like it's from another dimension. It felt like it was from something else. This energy was different than anything I've ever felt before then or after then. I've never felt anything like this since then at all. Not even a fraction of what that felt like. This was a one-on-one experience that when I wrote down the dream, I specifically wrote, I don't think this is a feeling or a sensation that you can feel while alive. Or if you can feel it while alive, it would have to be in the deepest meditations of all time, or in a dream, or something something where you go somewhere else. But in a day-to-day experience, you cannot feel what this type of energy felt like. I genuinely don't believe that. That's how I've said alien like 17 times, but that is the best possible word I can think of to explain what the experience was. It was just, again, it felt like the Big Bang. And that was the initial one that kind of opened my mind up to the fact that there could be. I mean, I already kind of felt like there was, and I've read about it and watched videos on it. But that was the first experience I had that there is something else to be experienced outside of what can be experienced with the vessel that we have as a body. That was also one of the things, probably the first thing that opened my mind up to the fact that this physical body has very real limitations. And it has very real, a very real cap and ceiling on what can be experienced. And I always knew this because, I mean, the human eye can only make out certain, you know, fragments of the spectrum, the light spectrum. Our ears can only hear up to a certain, hertz and decibels. I knew that, you know, consciously and cognitively, but to experience something that is outside of what the human body can physically experience, to actually have that moment was opened my mind up in a way that I don't think could have been opened if I read another book or if I, watched another video or if I did any of these things that I had been doing to seek the answers that I had. This experience took me much, much further and opened my mind up much, much further than any of those other things could have possibly done in 1 million years. I could have read 1 million books. I could have watched 1 million hours of videos trying to get some kind of understanding, and it would pale in comparison to the experience of this dream. So that was the first one. The second dream, I actually used the word dream loosely here because it did not feel like a dream, actually. It felt like more of a sleep experience because I think dream is a very distinct difference. This was October, I want to say 17, 2024 at 1:29 a.m. And I'd been asleep at this point for about 2 or 3 hours. I normally go to sleep around 10:30, 11, maybe 11:30. I had been asleep, but I wasn't in a dream. So it felt like it was completely dark. It was complete blackness. It was no visuals, but I didn't feel like I was asleep. It felt like I was awake, not like sleep paralysis type of awake, but it felt like I was in the middle space of being asleep and then waking up. I was in a very liminal, that purgatory type of area between sleep and awake. And again, pure blackness. And I get the sensation that my head is opening up. And not in a painful way, not in a forceful way, but it just felt like the area of my head, like my crown area, was opening. And that sensation felt like, if I could describe it, if you have a car with a sunroof and you open that up and it just feels airy, it feels more flowy, or if you have a beanie on and you take the beanie off, it just feels more airy and flowy and it feels more free and open. That was the sensation. That's what it felt like. So it's complete darkness, completely black. I'm not awake, but I'm not fully asleep. And I get that sensation. And then the very next second, I fully wake up, and a phrase sticks out in my mind clearly and sharply more than any other phrase has ever stuck out of my mind before. And I didn't hear this phrase. I didn't see this phrase anywhere. I didn't. It was almost like it was dropped in my mind. Almost, it was a very clear phrase, and I wrote this down. What I wrote down in my notes app when I woke up from this experience, I wrote this. I had the intense realization that the only thing to perceive is perception itself. That's what I wrote down. The phrase of note, the noteworthy phrase was the only thing to perceive is perception itself. And I think it's important that I wrote down that it was a realization because it felt more like it wasn't an idea, it wasn't a remembering of any kind. It felt like an aha. That's what it felt like. It felt like, when you try to just think of something, it just feels like an aha moment, like a eureka type of moment. The only thing to perceive is perception itself. It was very sharp and clear in my mind. That phrase was, I couldn't believe how just that was the first thing on my mind as soon as I woke up. Nothing else was on my mind. Not even the fact that my head just opened up in this sleep experience was on my mind. The only thing on my mind as soon as I opened up my eyes was that phrase. And then I wrote that down. And again, not that time was even a consideration because I wasn't in none of these. Time is never a thought of on the forefront of my mind. But if I had to put a time frame on it, this entire thing could not have lasted more than, again, 5 or 6 seconds from the sensation of my head opening to me opening my eyes and this phrase popping up, maybe a 5 second time span. This one, how am I going to say this without sounding like I'm completely losing my mind? This is a faceless YouTube, so I can really say anything without fear of sounding crazy because you have no idea who I am. This one feels like something, literally, something from another dimension opened my brain up and put this information into my brain and either wants me to contemplate this, wants me to think about this, wants me to think about what this means and just take this information for myself and kind of use it to navigate life in some way. And I also share this. So that's a large part of why I'm here. I've put this on multiple platforms before, but the only thing to perceive is perception itself is, yeah, I just kind of feel like it was dropped in my brain for me to get out somehow. So that was the second dream slash sleep experience that opened my mind up and gave me some answers that I was looking for. This last dream is actually why I am making this video in general. This one feels like it put a bow on the other two dreams and it made these three dreams into a sort of series almost in a way that, like I said, puts a gift wraps and puts a cherry on top of some questions I had and I've always had, some understanding I feel like I had, but I got to experience it in a way that is impossible. So this dream happened on August 25th at 3 a.m. In this dream, there was a part of the dream that happened before that I don't remember. In this section of the dream, I was in a sterile, again, I write all these dreams down as soon as I wake up. So whatever verbiage, whatever language I'm using is just the freshest, most sharp thing that I can use at the time as soon as I wake up. So I feel like that's just the best way to do it because I'm not trying to think too much. I'm just writing down the first thing that comes to mind when I think of these dreams immediately after I wake up. So I wrote down that I was in a sterile office. It looked very sterile. It looked like it was warm lighting, just kind of a warm, sterile type of office. I'm in the office by myself, like a sterile doctor's office almost. I'm sitting on some platform with my legs dangling down, and I communicate somehow, not verbally, but I remember expressing somehow that I want to see how all of this works. I want to see how all of this works, something to that effect. And then something else, there's nobody else in this room, but something else expresses to me somehow. I can just understand what the information was or what the expression was. I understand this other thing responding to me that I would have to give up my body first. And initially, I was hesitant and afraid because when I hear this, I think I'm going to have to die, and I actually don't want to die. But that's what I heard back. I would have to give my body up to see how all of this works. So I agree to give my body up, and I dissolve or like fade. So the dream starts. I am locally in my body, the same way in waking life. We're all local to our own body, and even in dreams, you're local to a specific body or character, even if it's not your character. Sometimes I've had dreams where I'm somebody else. I'm a different character that's not me. I was about to say my name. I have a different character that's not me, but I'm still localized to one singular thing. In this dream, when I dissolve or fade away, I am no longer localized to any specific one thing. I feel like I exist as the consciousness field and not a point in this field. I feel like I exist as the consciousness field itself, the entire field. And again, other than just, there are no visuals. Just I still just kind of see it's just just warmth. Visually is the best way I can describe it, like warm lighting, and I exist as this consciousness field is the feeling I have, and I notice that I feel some waviness, like I can, not like you're like a tactile sensation, like you're in the ocean laying on a floaty or anything like that. I just feel waviness, almost like a geometric waviness. I feel it throughout the entire field that I am. And I don't have any thoughts, but I still do have mental activity, right? So, not thoughts in the sense of this is weird or the way we have thoughts in waking life. What do I have to do today? What am I experiencing right now? It wasn't that. It was just mental activity in almost the most fundamental possible way that it could be. It wasn't directed towards anything. It was just pure mental activity. And I noticed that once my mental activity changed in any kind of way, right, the pattern of the waves that I felt instantly felt different. So my mental activity would change, and instantaneously, the pattern that I felt, the sensation of the pattern that I felt, the waves that I felt, they were different instantly. Okay? And then after that, obviously I woke up. So what do I make from this one? This one was the reason why I'm making this video after this one specifically is because this confirmed in an experiential way something that I knew to be true this entire time, but I had before it was just an abstract understanding. It was just I've had evidence of this in my life before, but this confirmed that thoughts have a very, 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 very big impact, or mental activity, I'll say. And this dream was mental activity. Mental activity in general just has a very, not even a huge role. It is the singular role in whatever is creating anything, right? If you look up cymatics and you look up when people have a plate and they put the fine sand on it and they play these frequencies, these songs, and the sand moves in geometric patterns, that is what it felt like. It felt like the mental activity, to correlate this with cymatics, it felt like the mental activity in the dream that I had was, the frequency or the song that's being played that's creating these waves, right? That's creating very literally these waves of noise and sound. And then the sand takes shape based on the waves that are being made. And I knew that before, but to be able to experience it not as a localized anything, but to experience it as the thing itself. it's the strangest thing to even try to verbalize this, to verbalize what it feels like to not be localized to a body and to feel like you are dissolved into consciousness, the consciousness field itself, and to feel the waves change, very, very literally change immediately as my mental activity changed. That blew the doors off of any doubts I had about absolutely anything. And ever since then, I've been thinking about this. If you look in front of you right now, I'm looking in front of me, I see the TV on, I see a bookshelf, I see a plant, I see a glass of water, the walls, I see my kitchen right here, right? I see everything in a 360 view, and we can see this all around. But just behind this, if we can pull this down, like if it was like if it was a wallpaper, if we could rip this down, just behind all of this is absolutely nothing, but there's mental activity behind this, and there's waves behind this, patterns, geometric patterns, frequencies, however you want to say it, that is reverberating and creating all of this. If this everything we see in front of us and all around us is just a very immersive, highly detailed, vivid wallpaper. If you rip this down, there's something behind this. I know I probably sound absolutely psycho. I probably sound schizophrenic. When I listen back to this, I'm probably going to say, damn, should I even publish this? But I'm going to anyway. Just behind this is a more real truth, a more real world. It's not visual. There's nothing behind this to see, but there's a more real feeling and thinking world behind this somehow. And I have experienced it. Again, I know I sound absolutely psycho, but that's why I'm making this video. That's why this is faceless. You have no idea who I am. I might be psycho. You don't know. But I genuinely believe that is what this dream confirmed for me. And that's what I have been thinking about ever since I had this. Ever since I had this, I cannot help but walk around or drive around or experience life with the knowing that there is a more real thing, there's a more causal thing behind this. This wallpaper that we are navigating in is chalk zone. This is chalk zone. All of this is chalk zone right now. This is the wallpaper. We are living in this very immersive, vivid wallpaper. And just behind this is something that would blow your mind. It would absolutely blow your mind. You wouldn't see anything, I don't think. At least in my experience. I might have another dream that ties things in even more in maybe another year or maybe another week. And I might have to make another one of these videos. But up to now, this is my understanding. So these 3 dreams in total painted a picture for me that shapes how I am navigating life from here on out. The first thing that I'm doing, and I would like to encourage everybody else to do, suspend your disbelief. There's a YouTube channel called Area 52, and that's what the host says. He says, suspend your disbelief. Do that for a second and just experience this a little bit differently. And just think about this reality. If that's something you think about, if you're listening to this video, that's probably something you think about. Just try to experience this a little bit differently and almost literally imagine yourself ripping this wallpaper down and try to imagine what would be behind that. Like what's behind that? Because that's always how I felt before. There's a concept called the fourth wall in film and television. And the fourth wall is the space between the audience and whoever is on stage or in front of the camera. And breaking the fourth wall means the actor on television or in the TV, they look directly at the camera and they acknowledge the audience and the fact that they are in a show pretty much. Martin did this a lot. They did this on Fresh Prince a couple of times. That's called breaking the fourth wall. And I feel like when you acknowledge, that's always how I felt. It felt like there was a fourth wall somewhere. I felt like this before I had these dreams. This was in 2021, 22 is how I felt. I felt like there was a fourth wall somewhere, but I couldn't figure out where it was or what was. It felt like every wall I looked at was the fourth wall. I know how psycho this sounds and schizophrenic this sounds, but I'm in perfect sane mind state. Promise. That's always how I felt. What is behind this? And I feel like these dreams had given me a better sense of what's behind this and what's really going on. Way more than any book ever could have. So I would encourage everybody to just think about what's behind this, and most importantly, control your mental activity, because instantly, as soon as your mental activity goes anywhere, there is a corresponding physical, uh, metaphysical, physical change in something, change in frequency, change in pattern, change in the wave. As soon as your mental activity changes, there's a corresponding physical reverberation of that. I've experienced it. I had been it. I had no, I haven't experienced it. I had been it. Right. So I know a lot of it probably does sound cliche of control your thoughts, think positively. You can think how you want to think, but just don't say nobody told you. It has a very real reverberation, right? The other understanding it gave me was that their energy, probably perhaps maybe what's behind this wallpaper, is an energy that is impossible. An impossible energy, an impossible electric energy, Big Bang type energy that is to be experienced. That is just building up. It's just building up. It never exploded in the dream match. It just feels like it's building up impossibly. And another phrase that's been on my mind is the impossible is inevitable. That's going to be another video because that ties into the second dream really, and the second dream ties into a more grand concept and thing I've been thinking about with perception, and the only thing to perceive is perception itself. That dream ties very well into another, like I said, another thing I've been thinking about. But I feel like I'm about to go off on a tangent here. So I would just, to wrap this up, if you are a seeker of any kind of some deeper truths, of some deeper knowledge, just just stay on the path and keep your eyes slash eye open. But keep your mind open. Just keep all that open. Seek earnestly, and you're gonna stumble upon something. You're gonna find something. You're gonna experience something that blows your mind to smithereens, obliterates your mind, and gives you some understanding that you would not have received any other way. So if you are a seeker, keep seeking.